Well, hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to a rare Monday edition of Effed Up News. Effed Up News is usually a show I do on Sundays at 5 p.m. But yesterday, here's basically what happened, guys. I spent since Thursday I spent all the evening of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even into Sunday doing something very special for all of you. What I was doing was re-recording the audiobook for Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. And so the reason that we are doing effed up news today instead of yesterday is I got to tell you, by the time I got done recording my audiobook, my throat was, well, it was a little rough and it was very exhausting. And I really just needed a break. And so I appreciate you all bearing with me and giving me an afternoon off because, as my locals members know, I was streaming the recording of my audiobook all weekend. I think it came out really great. Now, some of you might remember that there used to be an audio version. That audio version that was recorded by someone else who I'm sure had the very best of intentions, even though she, may not have been politically aligned with the book, let's just say. That old audio version is gone. It is never to be heard from again. And the new audio version is going to be coming back in effect. And I'm re-recording just a couple minor sections from the beginning of the book today, because I felt like once I started getting in a groove with the book, like it started getting better. And so I wanted to go back and re-record some of the stuff at the start. But I promise you, it has turned out great. I'm really happy with it. And well, they're going to edit it. So fingers crossed that goes well and smoothly. But I am looking forward to having the audio version coming back very, very soon. And of course, I will let you guys know when that is available. But in the meantime, of course, you can currently order the hardcover version or the Kindle version. Head over to activelyunwoke.com. You can order it on Amazon or non-Amazon options, whatever's clever for you. And if you've already ordered the audio, if you got the first version of the audiobook, the one that we will never speak of again after this whole thing is over, what I'm going to recommend you do, at least on Audible, I know how this works on Audible, is I'm going to recommend, unless you really want to keep, we're going to call it the woke version of the audiobook. If you really want to keep the now collector's edition woke version of the audiobook, you're welcome to do that. But what I'm going to recommend is that you guys return that version to Audible. You get your credit back and you wait and use that credit to buy the new and improved audiobook when it becomes available. So you can do that by you can get your copies right now by heading over to activelyunwoke.com and all that good stuff. Now, if you would like an autographed version of the book, they are available through premiercollectibles.com. You can get a generic autographed version with a nice book plate. So head over to premiercollectibles.com, just search for Actively Unwoke, and you'll come right up. However, if you would like me to do a customized autographed book plate just for you, what you need to do is become a member of my locals community, because I've got a special perk coming up just for annual members in my locals. This is only for annual. This is not for monthly. But if you're a monthly member and you want to take advantage of it, you can upgrade your membership to annual if you like. But for every annual member of my locals that requests it, I will be sending you a free autographed customized book plate that you can put inside your hardcover version. I haven't started doing them yet. I'm going to start doing them once I get back from Reno next week. We will talk about that in a second. So there's still plenty of time to become a member in locals and then to request your customized autograph book plate. The instructions for doing it are literally right at the top of the community. And how you do that is you head over to kb.locals.com/support and you sign up as an annual member. Now, if you're not quite ready to do the annual membership, you can sign up at the same place for $5 a month as a monthly membership. You can also make a one-time gift. All of that goes to support the work I'm doing. And of course, it is greatly, greatly appreciated. And of course, if you purchase the book in any way, shape, or form, even if you're not a member of my locals, you're going to want to sign up for book club, because I do have a free book club coming up. And if you want to learn more about that, you can head over to activelyunwoke.com and you go to the Unwoke events section And this is all the information that you need to know about book club. We are getting started on June 4th. It is a 3-part book club because the book is written in 3 parts. And so you don't even need to read the whole thing by June 4th. You just need to read the first part, which in reading my own audiobook, I very quickly discovered that the first part is actually the longest part. Fun fact, I will never write chapters that long again in my life if I'm reading my own audiobook from here on forward. The shorter chapters were just so much nicer to read. But we are going to be getting started on June 3rd. We're going to have meetings on, or excuse me, June 4th, June 18th, and then July 2nd. And this is available to everyone who has bought the book, regardless of its pre-order or not. I originally set it up to only be for people who pre-ordered it. And then there were shipping delays, and there were other things going on. And there was the great audiobook tragedy of 2022. And so I was like, F it. F it. If you've taken the time and made the effort to buy my book, you can get into my book club. I don't even care. And how you get access to that is by sending your receipt to bookclub@activelyunwoke.com. And that is all you need to do to get signed up for book club. All right, guys. Now, programming note before we get started. Tomorrow, I will be flying out to Reno, Nevada to attend as an elected delegate the 2022 Libertarian National Convention. And oh my God, are we expecting it to be a shit show of epic, epic, epic proportion. Now, for those of you who haven't been keeping up with libertarian drama, this convention is actually super exciting, guys, because what we are expecting to happen is that the Mises Caucus is going to run the table. And that's a good thing. Because if the Mises Caucus runs the table at the National Convention, that means that this is a case study, a real world example of the first time that wokeism has ever been universally defeated in a major organization. Okay, I know some of you don't think the Libertarian Party is a major organization. I get it. But it is still a big deal. Listen, the problem that many of you have with the Libertarian Party is what? It's that Joe Jorgensen tweeted Black Lives Matter and they're all filled with socialists and they're all totally woke. Yeah, okay. But guess what? Most of the people in the party now hate that. They hate it. And in the convention this coming week, what we are expecting to happen, because the numbers are on our side, is that the woke people are going to be completely routed in terms of any decision-making responsibility for the foreseeable future. This is a problem of their own making. I won't go into the backstory behind it. There's all sorts of drama and intrigue and shenanigans. But what you need to know, just like in Stephen King's The Stand. Okay, I know that the Stand took place in Vegas and not in Reno, but it is the Libertarian Party, so it's a little bit, I think it is actually apropos. But just like in Stephen King's The Stand, when there was an epic showdown between good and evil at the end, this is quite literally what is happening at the, okay, not literally. This is what is happening at this is figuratively what is happening at the Libertarian National Convention this week. There is a showdown between woke and unwoke has the power to win. They have the numbers to win. And unless something goes horribly wrong, this time next week, the Libertarian Party will be under new management. And I am so excited to be a part of this. I am so excited to be representing New Hampshire as a delegate at this. I think it's going to be an absolutely amazing, amazing time. But the reason I bring this up is that because I'm leaving tomorrow and I don't get back until Monday night, the content might be a little wacky for the next week. We are going to be deviating from our normal schedule for the next week. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to do content when I can. I just really don't know what my schedule is going to look like, to be very honest, because like I said, I do actually have responsibilities. This is not just me going and gallivanting about. There are places that I have to be and things that I have to do to show up and vote the way that things need to be voted on. Like that's the same thing with like every delegate. Like our literal job is just to be there and vote in the right way. We just have to be present. But I'm going to do my level best to try to get as much footage as possible, to try to capture any shenanigans, to bring you guys in on the fun, because it really is, I really do think it's going to be very fun. And yeah, so that's what's going to be happening. So I hope you'll all forgive me with just a little bit of scheduling kind of insanity. I might be doing some late night streams, especially because I'm going to be on West Coast time. So it's like, it's going to be like a late night stream here would probably be like an early afternoon stream there or something like that. I don't know. Sarah asked, will there be a community Zoom and locals on Wednesday? Yes, I am planning for there to be a community Zoom and locals on Wednesday because there's not anything going on Wednesday. I'm basically just going out tomorrow because here's what's really going on. I'm paranoid about flights. I have 2 layovers on my way out, and I got really paranoid, and I was like, they're going to cancel one of my flights, and I'm not going to be there in time. And so I like went out like an extra day early in anticipation that there might be flight shenanigans because I want to make sure I actually get there when I need to be there. So if things go well and I arrive in Reno tomorrow night, there will indeed be a Zoom call on Wednesday. If things do not go well and I get stuck somewhere on my journey out to Reno, then there will not be a Zoom on Wednesday and I will keep you guys updated. But as of yes, right now I am planning for there to be a Zoom. All right, guys, let's dig into it. Please mount that like button for me. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you have not already. And let's start with this story from Fox News. Now, do you guys remember? Let's go on a journey back many, 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 many moons ago when the National School Board Association sent a letter to the Biden administration basically saying, there are all these dangerous Republicans going to school board meetings and they are domestic terrorists. Well, there has been a slight update on that letter because now we know that not only did the National School Board Association call parents domestic terrorists in that letter, but in the original draft of that letter, apparently they asked for the National Guard and the military to be deployed to school board meetings to be used against parents who were speaking out against things like masking children and critical race theory. And as you recall, we do know because of the FOIA requests that Parents Defending Ed sent to the government, we know that the National School Board Association worked directly with the Department of Education and worked directly with the Biden administration on the drafting of that letter. And so now we know that they almost went even further than the initial letter. Let's read. Early demands from the National School Boards Association to the White House included calling for the deployment of the Army National Guard and the military police to monitor school board meetings, according to an early draft letter of the organization's independent review released on Friday. In contrast to the final version, the draft of the NSB letter says, we ask that the Army National Guard and its military police be deployed to certain school districts and related events where students and school personnel have been subjected to acts and threats of violence. Now, I was actually just talking about this with Joshua earlier today. Do you guys know it is a pattern of, and actually, I may have run into this with a certain Crypt Keeper audiobook reader as well. This is a convenient thing that leftists do all the time. This is something we need to be watching out for when we're fighting back against the woke. Because here's what happens. Anytime an unwoke person speaks out against the woke, whether it be out against masking children, which is child abuse so far as I'm concerned, whether it is against critical race theory in schools, whether it is against grooming, whether it is against any of these things, anytime Democrats and progressives feel any sort of pushback at all, the very first thing they say is, we were threatened with violence. All these mean people sent us violent threats. But they never provide evidence of it. Does anyone else find it convenient that the woke complain about mean people saying mean words to them as threats of violence all the time, and yet they never actually provide evidence of it? And then they use those accusations that they never provide evidence for in order to threaten violence against the people who are questioning them, or in order to threaten repercussion or cancellation against the people questioning them. And you always need to hold their feet to the fire on this. I have had it with conservatives or frankly anyone that's not a woke leftist. I have had it with anyone just taking their word for it. They have not gained the benefit of the doubt. They do not earn your trust. And so anytime, and I actually have had this happen to me, anytime a conservative is like, how dare you? They were threatened. No, they weren't. Did you see the evidence? Did they show you the evidence? Have you seen any evidence of any threats at all? Because I don't believe one word they're saying anymore. The only instance of violence at a school board meeting that I can remember offhand was from a father who was, frankly, reporting the rape of his daughter that the school was covering up. That is the only incident that you can even remotely begin to classify as violence pertaining to one of these school board meetings. And even that doesn't really count as violence because that father was doing exactly what any father would do. And I don't think a single person out there blames him. And he absolutely does not deserve to have the Army National Guard and the military police called on him because a school was covering up the rape of his daughter. Yeah, I said it. Let's see. The NSBA had originally sent a letter to President Biden in September of 2021 that asked for parents protesting at school board meetings to be federally looked into, saying school board officials were facing threats and violence at those meetings. No, they weren't. That's lies. They always lie. Every single time they say they're facing threats and violence, they're lying. Most significantly, the NSBA requested in its original letter that parents' actions should be examined under the Patriot Act as domestic terrorists. Sam says, never forget Jesse Smollett. They fake evidence. They fake evidence all. Well, I don't even think most of the time, Sam, they don't even bother to fake evidence. The problem is not that they fake evidence. The problem is that no one ever demands their evidence. They just go, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were getting threatened. It's like that fucking Burlington school board. Do you know how many times I've heard the school board in Burlington like, we were threatened, we were threatened, we were threatened, we were threatened. Where's the evidence? Play me the voicemail. Show me the emails. Show me the tweets. Where were you threatened? No one ever asked them for evidence. They just took their word for it. This actually happened to me with conservatives, where conservatives were interviewing me about this. They're like, well, aren't you concerned that the Burlington school board was threatened? And I said, did you ask them for evidence? Well, no, but can we trust them? No, you can't. No, you can't. They're lying. They're lying. They are absolutely 100% lying. Demand evidence every single time. Then on October 4th, Attorney General Merrick Garland issued a memorandum instructing the FBI to collaborate with state and local leaders to address threats against school administrators, board members, teachers, and staff. He went on to say this collaboration will open dedicated lines of communication for threat reporting, assessment, and response. The NSBA's early draft also called parents speaking out schools and educators. And the schools are directly pitting themselves as enemies or as parents being their enemies. Teachers do not see themselves as partners of parents. Let's just be clear about this. If you think your kids' teachers are your friends, I'm not saying there aren't good ones out there. There are still onesies and twosies of good teachers. But you really need to understand that the teachers do not view themselves as your allies. The teachers think that your kids are their kids. They think it is their job to teach the children and raise the children and educate the children and mold the children and be there to protect the children from their evil parents who are not creating a safe space in their own house. The teachers think that your kids are their kids, not the other way around. Never forget that. Another removed portion casts doubt on whether critical race theory is being taught in schools. It said an increasing number of public school officials is facing physical threats because of propaganda purporting the inclusion of critical race theory within classroom instruction and curricula. So they were going to blatantly lie. because anyone who watches my channel regularly knows we have documented at least once a week for the past year and a half instances of critical race theory being taught in schools. The independent review also showed the collaboration between the NSBA, the White House, and the Department of Justice, as well as internal responses to the swift blowback. So, just so you know, the teachers literally wanted to call out the National Guard on the parents. That should really tell you everything you need to know about how they see you. They wanted to use the military against you. But it also says something else. It also says how afraid they are of parents who stick up for themselves and who will go to those school board meetings and who will say what they want to say. You are entitled to say what you want to say at the school board that you are funding with your taxes. You are entitled to say what you want to say there. And they're scared of you when you do it. And you have to know that going in. You have to know going in that you are in the power position. You know, it might seem like they are because they're on the school board, but you have to know emphatically that you are the one in control. You are the one they're afraid of. So afraid, they literally want to use the military against you. You have to be brave. You have to go. You have to speak up every single time, not just once. You make yourself a presence at these school board meetings unless they issue you a no trespass order and kick you out like they did me. But they're probably going to have less luck with you than they are with me because I don't have a kid in this school that I got kicked out of the school board meeting at. And what I do know is that they can't as readily do that to parents who actually have kids in schools there. So you've got to hold the torch for your kids, man. If it's not going to be you, who else is it going to be? All right. So that's what we need to know about that one. Moving on. Now, something interesting happened over the weekend with the TERFs of all people. Now, as you know, I have recently started, I wouldn't say necessarily with friends, but like I've started being friendly with the TERFs. And I enjoy the TERFs. I really do. I like them. I don't know. I don't agree with everything they say, but I do enjoy that they are ballsy, badass women who are standing up for what they believe in. And I have to have appreciation for that. But something interesting happened over the weekend. The TERFs started attacking Chris Rufo. They started going after him. Here's Katie Herzog basically retweeting Chris Rufo saying, Chris Rufo joins the TERF wars 5 minutes ago and announces women have been doing it wrong. That is not what Chris Rufo said. That is not what Chris Rufo said at all. What they're pissed off about is that Chris Rufo started covering the gender stuff and then got put on Tucker Carlson covering the gender stuff. And the TERFs didn't feel like they were getting enough credit for the work they'd done. Now, I won't dismiss the work they've done on this. This is obviously an issue they've been fighting back on for a really long period of time. However, here's what I'm going to say, and then we're going to read the story and we're going to talk about what happened. You guys can't shit on your natural allies like this. Like, so what? Chris Rufo is a guy. I understand. I understand that he has been covering other topics that are not your favorite gender topics up until this point. However, Chris Rufo is the most effective activist that exists in this game. And shitting on him because he's a man and because he just started covering these topics and because he got to go on Tucker Carlson and you didn't is not helpful. It is not helpful. Chris Rufo is so effective because of how disciplined he is. He works incredibly hard. And this is why, it's not because he's a man. This is why he has made as much progress as he has made. And anytime Chris Rufo is able to shed light on something related to this woke area, that is a good thing. That is a positive thing. Chris Rufo knows how to get laws passed, dude. And I'm sorry, but he really has made more overall progress. I'm not saying in specific to the gender ideology stuff, but in terms of overall beating back the woke menace in schools, Chris Rufo has made more progress in the last year and a half than pretty much anyone else on the planet. And so what if he went on Tucker Carlson and didn't give you credit. So effing what? Listen, dude, I'll tell this freaking story and I don't care. I am literally the person that launched Chris Rufo into this space when he followed up on a news story I broke. I broke that Seattle, Washington was doing segregated employee training. I broke that news story. That news story got covered on Ben Shapiro and a couple other places. Chris Rufo was then he wasn't unknown. He was a journalist in Seattle that was covering other issues, and he was the only journalist to actually take the news story that I broke and follow up on it and do FOIA requests and get more information. And that was literally the moment that Chris Rufo got launched into this space. And I have never once demanded credit for that from him or for anything else. You want to know why? Because who the F cares? Chris Rufo has taken on the thankless task of being the face of this for everyone else. He has made more progress than anyone else. He has helped get laws passed. He has helped write bills at the state level and the federal level. He has been absolutely critical in this fight. And so when other people turn up and start shitting on him for the work he's doing and demanding that they get the credit, like, boo fucking who? You should be grateful that he's covered your topic. You should be grateful that he's shining more light on it. You should be grateful that he's putting the energy in when he didn't have to. He didn't have to. So I will always have that guy's back because I understand, probably not even fully to be honest, but I understand the bullet that he has taken for all of us. He is their number one target. And there aren't many other people who would have ever put themselves in that position at all. So let's read about why the feminists are upset. This is on Unheard. Will feminists join Christopher Rufo in the gender wars? The activists highlighted crucial fissures in a coalition opposed to the trans ideology. Having your female idea repeated to much greater effect by a male colleague in meetings is, for office working women, such a familiar occurrence that it's become a wary stereotype. So the sight of a man, campaigner Chris Rufo, denouncing gender ideology to another man on the Tucker Carlson show ruffled many gender critical feminist feathers, not least when Carlson blamed feminists for pushing this ideology, asked, "Where are the men to stop this?" Hang on. I'm going to remember back to a couple weeks ago when I had my first of what I genuinely hope will be many Turf Tuesdays. And if you haven't seen the Turf Tuesday talk, go back and watch. It was a great talk. But on that show, Jay Thomas, who is one of the women that's been campaigning against this stuff, she literally said that she wanted men to step up and help. And then a man steps up and helps, and he gets ripped apart by all the TERFs on the internet for daring to stand up and help. So TERFs, you got to make up your mind, dude. Do you want the men to help you or don't you want the men to help you? If I were to say, like, well, if I were to weigh in on this, I would say that if you really care about your cause, if you care about the goal, then you should want everyone of every gender, regardless of if they have a penis or not. You should want everyone speaking out against this issue. Chris Rufo has a very large microphone, and he's got a very deep Rolodex of contacts. He could be an absolute warrior in this fight for you, but you have to allow him to be. He can't help that he was born a man, dude. He can't help it. Let him help you in the ways that he is able to offer that help if you care more about the goal than you do about getting credit for something. The response to this intervention was highlighted crucial fissures in the potential coalition opposed to gender ideology, willingness to work across the political aisle, and willingness to operate outside classical liberal political conventions. Campaigner Kara rebuked Rufo, pointing out that women had been at this for years. And let me just show you what she said. Kara, this is in response to a thread to the post that Chris Rufo made of himself on Tucker. Kara responded, "Chris, you've been getting quite a bit of flack on here for jumping into this space without realizing that women have been at this for years. Here's my book, in case you want to check it out and retweet. That would actually be very helpful. And then Chris has a little back and forth with her, and at some point she also tweeted, and here's my podcast too. Dude. Again, this is just blatant self-promotion bullshit. I'm sorry. This is blatant fucking self-promotion, and there's nothing wrong with self-promotion except when you're demanding someone retweet your book as penance for daring to cover your topic area. Like, it's just bad form, man. It looks selfish and self-promotional at best. And Chris Rufo responded. He said, I actually haven't been getting flack, and I certainly don't believe I need permission from feminists to report on gender. My reporting follows my curiosity and nothing else. And frankly, those of you who have been at this for years have done nothing but lose ground. And yeah, I agree with him. I agree with him, dude. I'm sorry. Like, and I don't want to shit on the turfs because I like the turfs. I like the attitude of the turfs. I think the turfs can make a lot of progress, but we also need to face facts here that there hasn't been a lot of progress made. And the reason there hasn't been a lot of progress made is because people are going about this in the incorrect way. And maybe the turfs could learn a thing or two from Chris if they asked him. I bet he would be more than willing to help you. He's always, at least for me, been incredibly helpful and incredibly responsive. He testified in New Hampshire for the anti-CRT bill. I know if I needed him for something else, I could probably reach out pretty easily, and I bet he'd do it. Because this is his mission. This is what he wants to do. And if he can help you guys be more effective, you should absolutely take advantage of that. So Rufo response, frankly, those of you who have been at this for years have done nothing but lose ground. Cue outrage. Let's leave aside the fact that in the UK, at least, opposition to trans activism has been far from hopeless. But being told by men that we're doing it wrong hits a sore point for the many long-standing opponents of trans activism whose views are inflected by radical feminism. Dude, if you guys were being successful, you would have passed laws by now. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. Chris Rufo has been active in passing laws at the state level, and he's been instrumental in getting bills introduced at the federal level, although none of them have passed. And least we forget, he is the person that is literally responsible for Donald Trump issuing an executive order banning critical race theory from the federal government and all federal government contractors when he was still president. Sadly, that executive order was rescinded on day one of Joe Biden's presidency, but that was 100% because of Chris Rufo. So I'm sorry, gender activists. I'm sorry. I'm going to say something you don't want to hear. If you've been so effective, then where are your laws? If you've been so effective, then why are they grooming children in elementary school? If you've been so effective, why haven't you beaten them back yet? I'm not saying you've made zero progress, man, but I also think you need to be realistic about how much progress you have and haven't made. And it seems to me it's because you might be focused on the incorrect things. Because if you're doing things like tweeting at Chris Rufo, Chris, how dare you cover my favorite topics and retweet my book as penance for you daring to cover these topics. If that's what you're focused on, you are doing it wrong. You are doing it wrong. And you need to shift course. And if you are not honest with yourself about this, you are not going to be successful. And I am saying this out of love, man. I want you to be successful. I want you guys to make laws. I want you guys to change public sentiment. I want you guys to institute policies in schools preventing this bullshit. But if you're going after the people who are trying, dude, turfs, listen. Most of the people that you're going to need to influence are men. Most of the people you need to convince are men. And if you're unwilling to work with men that you are on the same team with, you are going to have a lot of problems convincing men to pass laws and make policies and do everything that is required to actually functionally beat this back. You need them. They need you to tell them what's going on, but you need them to act on what's going on. This is a two-way street. Everyone has to be involved. Everyone has to play nice or it doesn't work. Very crudely, radical feminists object to trans ideology on the basis that gender is a hierarchy imposed on women as a class by men as a class in order to entrench male domination. As such, treating gender as more salient in political terms than biological sex is just viewed as a trendy new way of entrenching the same hierarchy and oppressing the same biological sex class, women, as ever. From this perspective, the galling sight of males popping up to criticize trans activism and seemingly receive little blowback when women have faced years of job losses, social and professional ostracism, and even death threats for voicing gender critical views looks like yet another data point for gender is a hierarchy. Or maybe he benefited from the work that you've already done. You could have painted that. You literally could have painted that the fact that Chris Rufo can go on Tucker Carlson and talk about these issues and not get the same blowback, because it's not like men have never talked about this before. I'm sorry. It's not like this is the first time a man has talked about this. You might actually, if the TERFs were smart, what they would say is, you know what? The fact that this can now be talked about in the open and him not receiving that blowback, that's as a result of our hard work. That's what they should do. If they really want to make the point that they've made all this progress, that's how they should play this. Not, Chris Rufo, you evil man, how dare you? This is by no means the only possible framework for objecting to trans activism, though. Conservatives and Catholics, among others, also object, but on different grounds. Radical feminists are vocal, but relatively few in number. What are the prospects, then, of building coalitions across such disparate ideologies? This thorny question has powered much of the internal politics within gender critical activism in recent years. Blah, blah, blah. Let me just get this super chat from Incognito real quick. Just gotta wait for it to pop up. There it is. Incognito says, TERFs, what's important? Clout or achieving goals? The goal should always come first. Who gets credit is something that can be dished out later. But I'll tell you what, man, as someone who has gotten credit for a lot of things, let me tell you that the credit doesn't actually get you very far. But you know what keeps you going is progress towards the fucking goal. That's all that matters. Is progress towards the goal. If you are not making progress towards the goal, you are going backwards from the goal. So you have to make sure you're being mindful of always moving towards the goal. And if you don't get the credit you think you deserve, so fucking what? Welcome to the club. It literally happens to everyone. Who really cares? Are you in it for the clout or are you in it for the goal? That's what you have to ask yourself. And if it's the clout that's more important to you, at least be honest about it, man. If all you want is to sell books and go on the shows and get the credit, at least be honest with yourself about it. Don't pretend that you're doing something you're not. Meanwhile, some more liberal objectors to trans ideology object to Rufo's mobilization of institutional power to fight back. You can't use the power of the state to win culture war battles. That is just wrong, Katie. Katie, that is wrong. You can use the power of the state to win culture battles because the state can be used to restrict the power of the state. That is precisely the point. Though in Texas and Florida, it looks a great deal as though conservatives are doing precisely that to some considerable effect. Meanwhile, much of the effective gender criticism activism in the UK has focused on pushing back against precisely this capture of state power by trans activists. Rufo is explicit about sharing almost none of the Rad Femmes' objectives and seeing their framework as more part of the problem than not. I don't believe the trans-exclusive radical feminist can solve the problem of trans-inclusive radical feminism, he said. While his desired outcome is not a TERF-approved gender curriculum in schools, I agree. I do not think the desired outcome we're shooting for is a TERF-approved gender curriculum. I don't think there should be any gender curriculum. I happen to be of the absurd opinion that schools should be about learning how to read and write and do math. That's pretty much it. Maybe you teach them some sciencey things. Maybe you teach them some history things. But I don't need no gender curriculum in school, one way or the other. I don't really care. Just because I don't want far left ideology in schools does not mean I want far right ideology in schools, or any ideology in schools for that matter. I just want kids learning how to read. Is that too much to ask? It really shouldn't be too much to ask. So that's what's going on with the infighting of 2022. And this is why we can't have anything nice, guys. There is so much effing infighting in the anti-woke space. This is why I've just decided to rid myself of it entirely. This is why I don't involve myself with other people. This is why I focus on what I'm doing and trying to do stuff with the Unwoke Army and get that together and writing my book. And then if people want to come on my team and play, you are welcome to come on my team and play. But dude, the amount of bullshit infighting, I have never seen anything like this in my life. And it is entirely because everyone is interested in credit and clout over actually getting things done. Moving on. Interesting thing happened on the View today. Whoopi Goldberg said something real stupid. Let me just get this into another screen real quick because I want to listen to the actual clip of Whoopi Goldberg, and I can only do that in another browser. So let me just stop this share. Let me see. Share screen, Chrome tab, share audio. No, The Blaze. I do not want your notifications. I just want to read this here article. Okay, this is from The Blaze. The View's Whoopi Goldberg blasts San Francisco bishop for denying communion to Pelosi. This is not your job, dude. Well, listen. I don't know that much about how churches work, but it actually does seem to me, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, you know what? Let's read what happened. Let's read and we can watch the clip. Whoopi Goldberg, co-host of The View, lectured the Catholic Archbishop of San Francisco on Monday about what is and is not his job after he announced that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is to be denied Holy Communion in his archdiocese because of her support for abortion rights. Let's listen.
Welcome to The View, y'all. The abortion rights battle is starting to blur the lines between church and state. The Archbishop of San Francisco is calling for Speaker Nancy Pelosi to be denied receiving communion because of her pro-choice stance. He's one of the priests who also called for President Biden to be denied sacrament. This is not your job, dude. That is not up to you to make that decision. You know, what is the saying? It's kind of amazing.
Okay, I'm just gonna pause right there. I don't know much about the Catholic Church other than I really thought that I would be smited upon entering a Catholic church when I was a kid because I was the only person in my brother and I were the only two cousins in our plethora of cousins that were not baptized. So I always thought I was going to be smited. But it seems to me that it is precisely and exactly the job of the Archbishop, or of the, what the fuck is this? What is that what his title is? I'm sorry. Is that what his title is? Hang on. Yeah, the Archbishop. It seems as though denying Nancy Pelosi communion for acting against the teachings of the church is actually exactly and precisely what his job is. If it's not his job to make that decision, whose job is it? Am I making things up? Is this just a Carlin doesn't go to church and doesn't understand the job of the church? Or of the people running the church? Because it seems to me like the Archbishop is going to be he's going to be pretty high in the church, right? Whose job is it to decide who gets communion and who doesn't? The abortion rights battle is starting to blur the lines between church and state. Well, the Archbishop of San Francisco is calling for Speaker Nancy Pelosi to be denied receiving communion because of her pro-choice stance. He's one of the priests who also called for Biden to be denied the sacrament, Goldberg said. That is not your job, dude. That is not. You can't. That is not your decision to make. Well, yes, it is. How dare you, she said to Archbishop Salvatore Oh God, Cordalone, I don't know. One of the Italians in the chat, tell me to pronounce this. Well, I don't know. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. The Archbishop is what we're going to call him out of respect. Who on Friday announced that he had informed Pelosi that she would not be admitted to Holy Communion after she resisted pastoral counsel on her support for abortion rights for too long. So it actually seems as though Nancy Pelosi was given counsel on this by the church. Nancy Pelosi was giving warnings on this by the church, and then the church finally had it, and they said, "We're done, Nancy. No communion for you." In a letter to the priests of his archdiocese, the archbishop explained that he had attempted to meet and speak with Pelosi several times in the months leading up to his decision. He wrote that according to canon law, Pelosi is obstinately persevering in manifest grave sin, and it is his responsibility as archbishop, literally his job, to enforce church discipline against her. The co hosts of The Views, several of whom were either raised as or are practicing Catholics, accused the Catholic Church of hypocrisy for neglecting to condemn politicians like Governor Greg Abbott who support the death penalty in contradiction with Catholic social teachings. Now, listen, I'll say this. That is an absolute contradiction. I agree with this. I'm sorry. I know you guys aren't going to like this. I know. Oh, someone's helping me pronounce it. Someone's helping me. Brent says Cordalaone. Okay, we're just going to call him Archbishop. That's way too much of a tongue twister for me. But no, I absolutely agree that it is hypocrisy. If you're not doing the same thing to people who are instituting the death penalty, I happen to be against the death penalty because I think that innocent people have absolutely been put to death by the state, and that's not acceptable. But like if you are like in the case of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, I absolutely believe he should be denied communion as well. He is literally murdering people, quite literally murdering people whose lives could be saved. So on that point, they are correct. I'm sorry, guys, they just are. The Catholic Church has lost 20% in attendance since the year 2000, says Anna Navarro, who went on to argue the church doctrine on controversial social issues is responsible for declining believers. Why? Because they're against artificial birth control. They are against in vitro fertilization. They won't give communion if you are divorced or if you are a gay couple. And because of things like this, and in the meantime, if they really want to protect children, they have tallied 17,000 of complaints by priests since 1980. I mean, she has a point there too. She does have a point. So I don't know. I think Whoopi Goldberg is being ridiculous because it is quite literally his job. However, there is also the point to be made on the other side that if you're not equally enforcing the rules and applying them to all political people, then you might be asking for yourself. I disagree. Some people in the chat are saying the death penalty isn't murder. I'm sorry, dude. It is. It's literally taking a life. I'm sorry. It is. That's wrong. All right, let's keep going. Let's go back to our other screen. Okay. Guys, please make sure you mount that like button if you haven't already. Please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Nope, I disagree with this. Capital punishment and abortion is not apples and oranges. Sorry. Nope. See, conservatives, this is where you look like massive raging hypocrites. You do. I'm sorry. If you are against abortion but pro death penalty, you look like a massive hypocrite. I am against the death penalty because innocent people have been put to death by the state. I don't think that that's acceptable. I think if one innocent person gets put to death, that is too many people getting put to death. I am not personally in favor of abortion, but I believe that people should have a choice, particularly in cases of assault and rape. So mine might be a contradiction, but it's a contradiction I'm comfortable with because I personally have never had an abortion. Don't ever plan on having an abortion. But you guys that are cheering on murder by the state, when you act like goddamn insane people on the other side of it, that's hypocrisy. Sorry. You're not going to get me on that. You're not going to get me on your side on that one. Absolutely not. Sorry. Moving on. Twitter will hide tweets that share false information during a crisis. Huh. Isn't that interesting? So it looks like the threat of Elon Musk hasn't changed anything just yet. Joshua seems to think that that deal's not going to go through. I guess we'll find out more about that. But this does seem to be a little problematic for several reasons, really, which we'll get into in a second after this super chat. Brian says Catholics have closed communion. You should not participate if you're not in a state of grace. If you have any sin unconfessed. Well, if we're honest, Brian, a lot of Catholics probably shouldn't be participating then. Like a lot. Like the vast majority. If we're being honest about it. I understand. Like, I don't really care. It's not my church, not my circus, not my monkeys. But I do think the rules should be applied fairly if they're going to be applied at all. And if you're only applying them to people that you disagree with politically, that doesn't make you look really good. Just saying. Anyway, the platform has a new crisis misinformation policy. Okay, let's read about how Twitter is going to screw us over even more. On Thursday, Twitter announced a new policy for dealing with misinformation during a crisis period, establishing new standards for gating or blocking the promotion of certain tweets if they are seen as spreading misinformation. Who gets to decide what's misinformation? That might be the first question I have. Who gets to decide? Yes, it is. I'm sorry. Dude, we can argue about this until I decide to block you on my channel. Murdering people by the state is exactly the same thing. If you're calling abortion murder of the unborn, this is why I can't stand fucking pro-lifers. Pro-lifers, get your fucking pro-lifer NPC arguments off my fucking channel. You look like raging fucking hypocrites every time. Pro-life or NPCs are not the same as people with a pro-life position. There are people who have a pro-life position on this channel that I can absolutely have a conversation with that I respect. The pro-life or NPCs are not people I respect. And if you are not admitting that capital punishment is murder, get the fuck out of here, dude. For real. For real. Brian, so what's your take on military member and murder? What do you mean? All murder is bad. All murder is bad. I'm sorry. Like, killing people is bad. I don't necessarily blame people in, like, the military who go to war because they're sent to war by the state, but I am extremely and vehemently anti-war. I don't think we should be involved in any wars. I think that the military should be used for the national defense, and that's it. And even then, it's like you have to have a conversation about what is national defense. It means not using our military in foreign effing conflicts that have nothing to do with us. So, yeah, I am against war. I've always been vehemently anti-war. I don't think it's correct. I don't know why this is like new information for you guys. I have been anti-war since fucking college. And you can have all the feelings you want about me calling abortion the same thing as capital punishment. You can have whatever fucking feelings you want. I don't really care. God. Now, can we please read? Only if you were at war, and if it was defense, that is a different thing, Brian. Defense is different. National defense of our homeland on our soil is extremely different than shipping troops all over the world, getting involved in conflicts we have no fucking business in. It is extremely different. Yes, I literally said that there's murder committed during war and I'm opposed to it, but when you are defending yourself, that is why Brian, you're smarter than this, dude. You're smarter than this. But I'll say it simply because you're arguing with me in the chat. Defense is not the same as offense. If you are defending yourself, that is self-defense. That is necessary. If you are going on offense and involving yourself, and by involving yourself, I mean the United States fucking government is involving you in conflicts we don't belong in, That is going on offense and is not acceptable. I'm sorry. I am vehemently anti-war for a reason. And you're smart enough to know the difference, Brian. Like you are. I know you are. I don't even know why this conflict is occurring right now. All right. Okay, we're getting into the abort. We're not. Okay, apparently we don't even care about Twitter. Apparently we don't even care about Twitter. Because we can't, like, here's the thing. All right, you guys want to go back to this? We'll go back to this. This is why I can't talk about abortion ever on my channel. This is why. Right here. Because pro-lifer NPCs in the chat will go, and then they disrupt the fucking chat for everyone else. Yes, that is how I actually see you, pro-lifers. That is exactly how I see you. Incapable of having a conversation with anyone. Incapable of considering nuance for anyone. So, because I would like to learn about the Twitter thing, we are going to move on to that now. And if you continue to read in my chat around abortion, you can see yourself right the fuck off this channel. I'm not going to do it. I will not do it. I am working very hard and very diligently on blocking every pro-life NPC on Twitter, and I will do the same fucking thing here. And again, what I mean by a pro-life NPC is not someone with a pro-life position, because you can have very clear pro-life positions and be just fine. I understand people with a pro-life position. I do not understand people who act like woke fucking leftists anytime you mention the topic of abortion. So it's going to stop, and it's going to stop now. Moving back to Twitter, please. On Thursday, Twitter announced a new policy for dealing with misinformation during a period of crisis, establishing new standards for gating or blocking the promotion of certain tweets if they're seen as spreading misinformation. Content moderation is more than just leaving up or taking down content, Twitter's head of safety and integrity explained. And we've expanded the range of actions we may take to ensure they're proportionate to severity of the potential harm. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't this kind of sound like it goes against 230? Doesn't it kind of sound like it goes against 230? Does to me. The new policy puts particular scrutiny on false reporting of events, false allegations involving weapons or use of force, or broader misinformation regarding atrocities or international response. Hoax tweets and other misinformation regularly go viral during emergencies. Oh my God! The sheer spread of events makes it difficult to implement normal verification of fact-checking systems, creating a significant challenge for moderators. Under the new policy, tweets classified as misinformation will not necessarily be deleted or banned. Instead, Twitter will add a warning label requiring users to click a button before the tweet can be displayed. So essentially, Twitter is deeming itself as the arbiter of what information you need in a crisis. That's what we're talking about. Twitter is trying to deem itself as the arbiter of what is true during a... Can we just think about this for a second? Because crisis situations tend to unfold rather quickly, right? Usually when a crisis is happening, you don't even know really what is true and what's not true. And Twitter, just for the record, doesn't necessarily have the best track record in the world of getting information correct. Say, when they banned the New York Post for 2 weeks right before the election for reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop. And then the New York Post got banned from their account for weeks because Twitter decided that the Hunter Biden laptop story wasn't real. And then magically after the election, poof, we all knew the Hunter Biden laptop story was real again. So you want to tell me that Twitter, who it took months and months and months and months and months to figure out the Hunter Biden laptop story was real, just should be deciding what information is real in terms of an actual crisis unfolding right against them or right in front of them? I don't think that sounds like a good idea. Just saying. The stronger standards are meant to be limited to specific events. Twitter will initially apply the policy to content concerning, you guessed it, the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine. But the company expects to apply the rules to all emerging crises going forward. For the purpose of the policy, crisis is defined as situations in which there is a widespread threat to life, physical safety, health, or basic subsistence. Well, that's good. It's good to know that, oh God. Oh my God. I just got a notification that is actually kind of amazing that I don't know I can share with you guys just yet. Anyway, it looks like Twitter's going to be pulling basic Twitter shenanigans yet again, but must be a day that ends in Y, I guess. All right, guys, moving on. We got a couple more stories for today. From the New York Post, fictosexual man married hologram bride, but now struggles to bond with her. Huh. All right. She's not real, but his feelings are. A fictosexual man who wed a fictional, computer synthesized pop singer 4 years ago said he is now unable to communicate with his wife, but he's still in love with her. What the hell is a fictosexual? Let's just look up this here link. Let's see. Where I just wanted to is that his wife? Wow. What is the definition? I just want a definition. Okay. Fictosexual, an umbrella term for anyone who only experiences sexual attraction to fictional characters. Huh. Wow. I think we just may have found the Queen from England's problem, haven't we? I'm just saying, it's as good an explanation as any. I don't know how to pronounce Kondo. We're going to call him Kondo. Kondo, 38, was dating this fictional character. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce Japanese names. I'm sorry. Depicted in pop culture as a 16-year-old with turquoise hair for a decade before they had an unofficial wedding ceremony in 2018. How can you date a fictional character for a decade? I don't understand. How were they dating? Kondo, who one of many who identifies as fictosexual or someone who is sexually attracted to fictional characters, spent 2 million yen, or about $17,300, still too much, on nuptials, but his family did not attend. Now married for 4 years, he is 38. He said his relationship has hit a roadblock. He can no longer speak with Maiku due to a technological hurdle, according to a Japanese newspaper. This is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. While he acknowledges his relationship might be odd, he understands Miku isn't a real person. It doesn't change his feelings for her. Since falling in love with her in 2008, Kondo was finally able to interact with Miku for the first time in 2017, thanks to a gate box, a $1,300 machine that allowed device owners to interact with characters via holograms and even unofficially marry them. Okay, listen, I'm not opposed to playing make-believe. I'm not opposed to fantasizing. I'm not even necessarily opposed, though I wouldn't necessarily say this would be something I would engage in myself, but to each their own. I'm not necessarily opposed of this like hologram box thing where you're interacting with like your favorite characters. I actually think that could be kind of cool, just from an interesting perspective of like, what if this person was a real thing? How would it be like to interact? It's like role playing, right? I guess. I'm not saying that I would use it in the way that I think this guy's using it. However, at some point, we do need to be hinged into reality. And I'm not necessarily sure that marrying a hologram is, well, the most mentally acute thing that a person can do. I'm just saying. Yeah, Brian, exactly. LGBTQFQ Q plus. There's now an F. Also, don't forget two-spirit and asexual and all that other stuff too. But now his 4-year marriage took a turn when support for Gatebox software was eliminated, meaning Kondo can no longer speak to his wife. Kondo insists it hasn't lessened his feelings. My love for Miku hasn't changed, he said, which noted he now carried around a life-size version. I held the wedding ceremony because I thought I could be with her forever. Dude. He's carrying around a fucking stuffed animal. Kondo is far from the only person in the world in a relationship with a character. Thousands of fictosexual people in Japan have begun similar unofficial relationships with a variety. Why is this happening in Japan? Is this like an anime thing? Why is this happening in Japan? I don't understand. While some relationships are just for kicks, yes, that is the appropriate way to do this, is to have fun. If you're just screwing, well, I was going to say if you're just screwing around, well, literally, if you're just screwing around, like, okay, fine, play, whatever. Like, people do weird things, whatever. Everyone has their weird things, and so try not to be so judgmental over other people's weird things. However, that doesn't mean you marry a hologram. While some relationships are just for kicks, Kondo's is, to him, very real. For a long time, he said he knew a human partner just wasn't for him due to his intense attraction to characters like Miku, a popular figure in anime and Japanese culture. Created as a synthesized voice using something I'm not going to pronounce, she entered mainstream media as a human but fictionalized character. In anime, it is a goddamn anime thing. Eventually, she became prominent enough to tour with the likes of Lady Gaga on her 2014 Art Pop Ball tour. But she isn't just famous. She also helped him with his depression. Kondo first became familiar with Miku in 2008 after bullying at work caused him to become depressed. Despite finding it difficult to accept his feelings at first, he knew humans weren't right for him after being met and rejected by others. Listen, oh my God. That's what he was interacting with? That's it? Dude. Brian, it would be $100 super chat to list out, and I just paid $1,000 for tires. Yeah, I appreciate it, Brian. Thank you. That's it? Listen, man, I understand being depressed, but here's the thing. People who don't love themselves are reticent to experience and accept love from other people. This might sound bizarre, but if you don't feel good about yourself, if you don't have self-worth, if you don't have self-esteem, it's going to be really difficult for you to accept love from real people, any people. So what it seems like to me is happening is this guy is having some issues around his self-esteem and he's been bullied. So I understand the depression, and I'm not making fun of the depression at all. Depression is a serious thing, and that's something that should be like treated. And I hope that he overcomes it, and I hope he gets better. However, the reason that he is marrying a hologram is because he probably doesn't believe that he is worthy of love. And because he doesn't believe that he is worthy of love, he has created this fantasy world that makes it impossible, that makes it very easy for him to keep women, actual women, real women, human women, at arm's length. Because people who have feelings like this tend to be more comfortable around people who don't give two shits about them, because you never have to worry about receiving love from those people. They don't really care about you. They don't want to have anything to do with you, really. They might use you and might hang out with you every once in a while and use you and all this stuff, but like they don't really care about you. But people like this are actually more comfortable hanging around with those types of people because it means they never have to put themselves in a position of receiving love for them. It's weird, but it is what it is, and it's sad. It's honestly sad. Maybe this little breakup of his hologram marriage is just what the doctor ordered, and he can go find someone better that will make him happy. Sam says, Ray Barclay, Star Trek. I'm sorry, Sam, I don't watch Star Trek. If Victor was here, he would know what you're talking about. In 2017, his relationship blossomed thanks to Gatebox. The machine gave Kondo the chance to propose, and he invited his family and coworkers to the ceremony, but none of them came. But 39 people did attend, including strangers and online friends, some of whom were also fictosexual. There are many reasons why I had a wedding publicly, he told the BBC at the time. The first one is to prove my love. The second one is that so many young people like me falling in love with anime characters, I want to show the world that I support them. It's sad. It's sad, isn't it? Oh my god, that poor guy. He needs some therapy. He needs some therapy, and he needs some friends, and he needs a real life girlfriend that understands him and that will be nice to him and that will treat him well, but not maybe too well, because any woman that's really in love with this guy is going to scare him away. He's going to run away so fast because he doesn't know how to receive love. But maybe just like a starter girlfriend. Maybe he just needs to maybe he needs like a hooker or something like that. Just like a starter girlfriend that can like pretend to be his girlfriend, but they all know that this is just a business exchange. Maybe something like that to get started, just to warm him up. And then he needs some therapy, and then he needs to acknowledge that you don't marry a hologram. I don't mean to sound insensitive, but it's weird. It is. All right, guys, let's move on to our last story of the day. Now, this is a happy story because I always do like to end on a nice, happy story. And I believe it was last week. I told you guys that Netflix had introduced a new section to their culture manual in which they told their employees that the employees it would not be acceptable for employees to be speaking out and protesting against content they didn't like any longer. And I said to you, this is a big deal, because what goes into Netflix's culture manual makes its way into all other organizations' culture manuals, because Netflix is held up as the pinnacle that all other HR people look at. And some of you said, yes, this is a big deal. And some of you said, Carlin, we just don't think that Netflix is really going to change anything. And so we're still going to keep our subscriptions canceled because cuties. Well, it looks like Netflix is taking that next step. Netflix cancels some of its woke shows, signaling its backpedal from leftism is well underway. So like I said, that culture manual is a big effing deal. That culture manual is something that Netflix has held up as the standard of all organizational culture manuals everywhere. And now they've taken the next step and they're reining in that woke content. Netflix is doing something other companies are proving to have difficulty doing: learning. If you get woke, there's a 99% chance you're going to go broke, and Netflix saw the signs. Not that they were hard to read. The public overwhelmingly didn't approve of Cuties, the movie that featured underage girls dancing in provocative ways. They also forced to cancel a live-action adaptation of Cowboy Bebop after 3 weeks. Jennifer, good to see you back, Jennifer. The Miko thing is a result of rampant, unchecked acceptance. We're only at the tip of the iceberg here at home, in my opinion. I disagree. Again, I don't think it's rampant. No one's Jennifer, his own family didn't even accept it. No one accepted it except other people that are crazy. So I disagree with you on this point because his own family didn't accept it. But I appreciate the super chat nonetheless, and I'm glad to see you back. Most importantly, they saw how the left attempted to launch a full-scale war against Dave Chappelle after he dared make fun of the holiest of the left holies, and the public overwhelmingly sided with the comedian, while the leftist pet cause only got tepid support. It made it very clear which side the company needed to be on when it came to creativity. The turn from woke culture was more than hinted at when the streaming company made it clear to its own employees that if it doesn't like working on programs that rub their political sensibilities raw, they know where the door is. They didn't mince words, using phrases such as, Netflix may not be the best place to work for you, and they might want to consider working somewhere else. It was also a hint that some things were going to come down the pipe that would definitely upset its woke employees. The streaming company is taking a new direction, and it's beginning by canceling a few of the hard leftist shows that were coming down the pipe. According to Variety, Netflix has canceled a handful of programs, including a cartoon called Anti-Racist Baby. Oh no! You mean Netflix canceled Ibram X. Kendi? How dare they? How dare they? Netflix has pulled the plug on several animated projects, including Wings of Fire from executive producer Ava, I don't know how to pronounce that name, Anti-Racist Baby, a series aimed at preschoolers, and With Kind Regards from Kindergarten, a film tailored to youngsters. The streaming service also scrapped Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. You know what that's based on? You know what that's based on? Oh, I have it sitting right here on my desk. That's what this is based on. This is a book that Ted Cruz read in Congress that I haven't gotten around to reading yet, but I have it sitting here ready to read. Netflix canceled this. Yes. Yes. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing. A documentary intended to serve as a companion piece to Stamped from the Beginning, which is a hybrid documentary and scripted feature that delves into race in the United States. Stamped from the Beginning is still moving forward and is currently in post-production. All right, so maybe it's not perfect, but it's something. Variety reported that sources at Netflix says this wasn't financially motivated. This is, of course, only half true. The only reason a company does anything is that they think it's monetarily beneficial in some way, or at the very least, monetarily beneficial for someone at the top. Instead, they said the reason for the cancellations is over creative differences. Anti-Racist Baby, for instance, was supposed to be a show dedicated to influencing children with race-focused ideas. Anti-Racist Baby, based on the anti-racist scholar Ibram X. Kendi's children's book of the same name, was imagined as a series of animated vignettes set to music for preschoolers. Kendi also wrote Stamped, Anti-Racism, and You, Bing! Which will no longer run in tandem with the adult-skewed Stamped from the Beginning. These three projects were being made to examine racism for audiences of all ages. According to Page 6, Netflix also canceled a feminist animated series made by Meghan Markle. Netflix axed the Renegade Royals' expected upcoming animated series because of budget cuts amid plummeting subscriber numbers, Deadline reported. The series was supposed to revolve around a 12-year-old girl on a journey of self-discovery, inspired by the legacy of famous women from history. This isn't to say that Netflix is abandoning the kids show game altogether. Titles such as Jurassic World, Kung Fu Panda, The Dragon Knight, My Dad the Bounty Hunter, and Gabby's Dollhouse are still set to go forward, but if it's politically inclined and aimed at children, its survival seems dicey. So guys, Netflix may have a ways to go, but again, I strongly recommend that if you canceled your Netflix over cuties, you need to subscribe again. And when you subscribe, you need to email them and tell them why you're resubscribing. And the reason that last step is so important, if you just resubscribe and you do not email them and tell them why you are resubscribing, then they will not know. What you need to say is, you gained my subscription back because you updated your culture manual to tell your employees to cut out the bullshit, and you canceled woke programming. You need to tell them this. If you do not tell them this, they do not know. This is a step, and especially, again, I see this with conservatives. I'm sorry, conservatives. Conservatives are the people who take their toy and go home, but they don't tell you why they took the toy and go home. They just get up and leave. And so then no one knows. They do this all the time when they're boycotting things. They're just like, I just won't go to Bed Bath & Beyond anymore because they don't sell my pillow anymore. Well, guess what? If you don't email Bed Bath & Beyond and say, I stopped shopping at your store because you canceled my pillow, then they don't know. If you just take your toys and go home, they don't know. But if you resubscribe now and you follow up with communication saying, I'm back because you canceled the woke bullshit, then they know. What does that do? It encourages them to keep on this path. Netflix is obviously struggling in terms of subscribers. They've lost a lot. What if a whole bunch of people came back and it was accompanied by a whole bunch of emails saying, I only came back because you stopped the woke crap? They're going to do less of the woke crap. They're going to deliberately focus on content that is not woke. But they need to have that feedback. If you do not give them that feedback, then do not complain because you didn't do your part. All right, guys, that is all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed Effed Up News, even though we got into a little fight about abortion. This is why I don't cover abortion on my channel, because it happens every damn time. And I'm tired of it, and I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm too busy for this bullshit, man. I do not care. But what I do have coming up to later today, in about 40 minutes, in fact, is I do have a call with my locals community. We have a private community Zoom. We do them on Mondays at 7 p.m. We do them on Wednesdays at noon, all Eastern time, of course. And we get together and we talk about what's going on. And sometimes they yell at me. Sometimes they argue with me. It looks like Brent is gearing up for another debate. You know how that went last time, Brent. I appreciate you, Brent. I'm just making fun. But we will be getting together in locals at 7 p.m. tonight in about 40 minutes to have a nice long chat, because they're usually nice long chats on Mondays. So if you guys would like to get involved in that, if you would like to participate in the community Zoom, and I definitely recommend everyone check it out, what you need to do is go over to kb.locals.com/support and you can sign up for $5 a month. You can sign up for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. Remember that if you sign up for the annual membership, you are going to be able to request a free customized autographed bookplate from me to put in your copy of Actively Unwoke. I will write your name. I will write a message, and it can be whatever message you want. It can even be whatever name you want. If you want to give it away to a friend, what a nice gift. I think it's a nice gift anyway. But guys, if you want to take advantage of all that, definitely join me in locals. Yeah, Brian and I are cool. We may still argue, but we're still friends. I get a little uppity when I'm on stream. But Brian, I really think you were smarter than the argument we were having earlier, because you know better. Come on. Anyway, I will see you guys in about half an hour in community Zoom. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.